For many years, I've been saying that traditional instruction is very flawed. Now, this comes from my experience of trying to learn traditional instruction as a kid, where I was learning from some of the top instructors in the world. I read every book that was available. I watched every video that I could, went through all the magazines trying to understand what traditional instruction was trying to tell you. And what I've learned, and this is also watching people trying to learn traditional instruction. When I started teaching at Wilshire Country Club when I was 22 years old, I immediately started teaching the system that I am teaching you right now. I developed it then, and at no point did I ever teach traditional instruction. But I would watch the other three instructors there, and they would teach traditional instruction. And you know what would happen? First, none of their students would get better. Second, none of their students would return for more lessons because they weren't getting better. But then, even worse, I would watch the instructors teach the students whatever the instructor happened to be working on that week for his own swing. I mean, it was just a constant search watching traditional instruction being given or listening to it myself because I had to go through the same thing. So let me break it down for you and let me point out why I think traditional instruction is flawed, and then I'm going to explain to you why the system that I teach doesn't have any of those flaws. So the original flaw in traditional instruction is the setup position. It is not a preset to do anything. It's just a point of reference. You start with your shoulders, your hips, and your feet all pointed towards your target. You have a flat spine, you have a flat back, and your butt sticks out, and your knees are bent. And that is the traditional starting point for golf, but for traditional golf instruction. But it has no purpose. There's no reasoning that that's going to help you to create a good shot. And in fact, every traditional swing returns to a different position at impact than what they start at. And so it's this improper setup position that then does what? It forces you to have a bunch of swing thoughts because you're trying to fix this poor setup position without you even knowing it. Because you're starting in this poor setup position, you now have to do a bunch of stuff during the swing in order to try and create an effective result at impact and on the ball. And it's all those swing thoughts that then make it really hard to not only, execute the traditional swing, which I think is very anatomically flawed, but now you have to do it with a bunch of thoughts, all in what, a second and a half? How long does a swing take? So during a very short period of time, you're supposed to micromanage a bunch of movements, which then forces upon you a bunch of swing thoughts. So if you start with the flawed setup position, and then that creates a bunch of swing thoughts, and then you go from there and you start to recognize that traditional instruction simply, like the diagnosis of traditional instruction. I remember when camera first got introduced and videos first got introduced into golf instruction. And it's one of the worst things that's ever happened. Because sure, it's, and I've made this reference before, you can watch a ball rolling down a hill, bouncing over rocks or whatever it's engaging as it's headed down the hill. But everything that's happening at that point is a product of something else. Well, traditional instruction defines all the movements that are occurring during the swing, but they don't tell you how to do it. They don't tell you how to recreate it. They tell you, move your arms this way, or move your arms that way, or turn the club this way, or turn the club that way. And that is not how the club works. That's not how your arms work. It's a cause and an effect thing. They talk about the effect. This is what your swing should look like. But they don't tell you the cause. They don't give you a solid reason as to why this should all occur. And I tell you this too, in traditional instruction, I watched it. When I was teaching at Wilshire, I'd watch the other three instructors try and give traditional golf instruction. And you know what happened? They would change their theories weekly. You see it in any golf magazine. Go look at a golf magazine. You'll see one guy say you should move the ball forward in your stance. And you'll see another guy say you should move the ball back in your stance. You see another guy that says, don't rotate your hips too much. And the next guy says, well, hip rotation is crucial to a good swing. They're constantly contradicting themselves. No wonder it's difficult, right? Well, for 26 years, I've been teaching the same system. From day one that I started teaching, I started to teach what I was doing in my swing because I knew it worked. And to me, it was a big surprise that it was universally applicable, honestly, but it's simply because I'm using the anatomy. I say, in traditional golf, they say you have to find your own swing based upon your anatomy. Our anatomy is human. We have 206 bones. If just provided your arms come out of your shoulders and your legs come out of your hips, you can execute the swing that I teach. No problem. Just like everything else that's done in life, there's a universal way. If somebody has to go through rehab in order to learn how to walk again, there's a very specific universal way that they teach that person how to walk again. If you're going to learn how to play the guitar, you're going to learn how to play the piano, you're going to learn how to shoot a jump shot. There's so many things that have a universal paradigm. But in golf, it's actually said that there is no universal golf swing. The foolishness of that blows my mind. But no wonder if there's no universal golf swing, how could you possibly expect to have a good and consistent golf swing? This is why no two golf swings look alike. Not just on tour, but go out and play public golf. You're going to look around and nobody swings alike. And nobody produces that impressive of results either, do they? Well, that starts to make you realize, man, maybe if they weren't trying to define the movements of the swing, but they were actually looking for the cause that creates the movements for those swings. Maybe if they didn't start you in a flawed setup position, maybe if they didn't ambush you with a bunch of swing thoughts, the traditional swing might be easier to execute. Now, the swing that I teach, I preset the movements for the swing. And so can you, because it's based upon the geometry of your anatomy relative to the task at hand. We want a shallow circular and descending swing, so we set our body into a position to create a shallow circular and descending swing. And we don't need to have a bunch of swing thoughts because we preset the movements for the swing. All you have to do during the swing is keep your weight still. If you keep your weight still, this shallow circular and descending swing is a natural result of the setup position that I teach. And like I said, I've been teaching this for 26 years. I've watched it over thousands and thousands of golfers, where if you could look through my eyes and see what I've seen over 26 years of teaching regularly, this has been my life. My life has been dedicated to the game. And then at the age of 22, my life got dedicated to teaching the game. Well, if you could look through my eyes and see what I've seen, you'd understand why I'm so passionate about it. Because I take golfers that have no business hitting professional quality shots, and immediately they're able to hit professional quality shots. You know why? Because I spent the time looking under every rock possible. I started playing golf at 9. I was playing competitive golf by 10. I was playing with Tiger Woods when I was a junior golfer throughout Southern California, and Phil Mickelson. I grew up in a golf mecca. And if you're playing competitive golf in a golf mecca, you're going to rub elbows with some remarkable players. And I've played hundreds and thousands of rounds with guys that made it to the nationwide tour, guys that have won the US Pub Links, guys that have won the California Amateur. My pedigree in the game is very steeped. And consequently, I was able to find something for you. I would notice this with a lot of my competitive friends. I felt like we were all climbing a ladder and trying to get to a place where we had total control over our swing. Well, a lot of my good friends that actually made it to a very high level of competitive golf got off the ladder of learning once they felt that their game was good enough to do what they needed to do. Now, they still had flaws in their game. They would tell me, I don't try and hit those shots. I stay within myself. I stay within my game. I have limitations to my game, but I recognize those limitations, and I'm still able to shoot well under par and compete in tournaments. Well, for me, that wasn't good enough. I kept climbing this ladder, and you know what happened? I reached this plateau of the most beautiful place I'd ever seen, where golf got simple. Golf got easier. The golf swing, at least, got much easier because I had done a bunch of due diligence. I would spend hours upon hours hitting thousands and thousands of balls, trying to understand what's the best way to control this ball and be able to do it in a consistent and repetitive and powerful manner. And the thing that I feel so lucky about was what I discovered is not just something that fits me. It's something that fits you too. This is simply based upon the geometry of the anatomy relative to the task at hand. And so you can literally step inside of my skin and benefit from all the years and all the time that I've been searching and trying to understand a better way to hit the ball. And you could step into my skin and you can actually access the same skill very quickly. And I feel very lucky that I didn't spend one lesson teaching the traditional system. And you know why I didn't? From the very first lesson I was about to teach, I looked at this guy who's an 18 handicap and hit this wicked slice. And I thought to myself, how possibly, this guy plays once or twice a week, how possibly am I going to try and download to him traditional instruction when I found flaw in it and I was playing 7 days a week of competitive golf and hitting endless amounts of balls? How is this guy going to get anything out of it when I was able to find flaw in it as a good golf athlete? And so immediately from the first lesson that I ever taught, I just simply told this man, this is what I want you to do. I want you to load your weight on your front foot and not shift your weight. And you know what I thought I would give him? I thought I'd give him a solid shot. And I remember him saying to me, really? No weight shift? Oh gosh. I thought I would just give him a solid contact, solid hit. And you know what happened? As soon as he put his weight on his front foot, his body closed down. And then he kept his weight there and he hit this beautiful tight draw. And he immediately turned and looked at me and said, I've never hit a draw in my life. And I immediately looked at it and I said, man, that looks just like the way that I hit the ball. And it was at that point that I recognized, okay, this has a chance to be universally applicable. And so for 7 years, I taught at Wilshire, teaching, at that point, hundreds of people. And it worked for everybody, from the old man to women, to children, to the middle-aged golfer, to the athlete, to the non-athlete, to the fit, to the non-fit, to the flexible, to the non-flexible. It works. And it works simply because of this. It's based upon the geometry of your anatomy. And what we do in the setup position is we create a preset for all the movements in the swing, so that all you have to do during the swing is focus on keeping your weight still. Now, if you want to experience this benefit, this joy, come on in. Join the Academy, and it won't take you long to recognize why I'm so passionate about what I teach.